Hello everyone, I am Leela Prabhukar and today we'll start with the chapter of class 11th, that is employment, growth, informalization and other issues. Okay, so now we'll start with this. So, uh, a great leader, Mahatma Gandhi, has said that what I object to is the craze for machinery, not machinery as such. The craze is for what they call labor saving machinery. Men go on saving labor till thousands are without work and thrown on the open streets to die for starvation. So, in this chapter, we'll be able to learn about the few basic concepts which are related to employment, okay, such as economic activity, worker, workforce, and unemployment. Then we'll be able to understand the nature of participation of men and women in various economic activities in various sectors. Also, we'll be able to know the nature and extent of unemployment, then access the initiatives taken by the government in generating employment opportunities in various sectors and regions. So, so people, we know that they do a variety of work. Some work on farm, factories, some work on shop, banks, and many other workplaces. So at few people they work at home. Okay, so work at home includes not only the traditional work like some women they do the weaving and all, lace making or variety of handicrafts. Okay, but also modern jobs like programming work in the IT industry. So earlier what used to happen is factory work means only it is like factories which are working in factories which are located in the urban areas, okay, in the cities. So whereas now the technology has developed so much that you can use this technology anywhere, urban and rural areas both. So whereas now technology has enabled people to produce those factory based goods at home in the villages, okay, so now you can manufacture the product in the rural areas also. So during COVID-19 pandemic in 2020-21, millions of workers delivered their products and services through work from home. But the question arises here is, why do people work? So here work is it plays an important role in our lives, okay, as it improves the standard of living of the people and you get earning, right? So you earn better. So role in our lives as individuals and as member of society, people work for earning a living. So some people get or have money by inheriting it, not working for it. So this does not completely satisfy anybody. So, being employed in work gives us a sense of self worth and enables us to relate ourselves meaningfully with others. And every working person is actively contributing to national income and hence the development of the country by engaging in various economic activities. That is the real meaning of earning a living. We do not work only for ourselves, we also have a sense of accomplishment when we work to meet the requirements of those who are dependent on us. Having recognized the importance of work, Mahatma Gandhi insisted upon education and training through a variety of works, including craft. So, studying about working people giving us insights into the quality and nature of employment in a country, and it helps us in understanding and planning our human resource. Then it also helps us to made a contribution to our different industries and different sectors, okay, and it also increases the national income. Okay. Then workers and employment. What is the employment? Who is a worker? So when a farmer works on a field, he or she produces food grains and raw material for industries. So the one who is working on here is a farmer. Okay, so he is a worker. Cotton becomes cloth in textile mills and in power looms. Then lorries transport goods from one place to another. So we know that the total money value of all such final goods and services produced in a country in a year is called as gross domestic product. Okay, so GDP. So GDP is nothing but it's the total money value of all the goods and services which are produced in a country within a particular year, that is a GDP. Okay. So when we also consider what we pay for our import and get from our export, we find that there is a net earning for the country which may be positive or negative, okay, or sometimes it can also be zero. So when we add all these earnings, okay, from foreign transaction, what we get is called the country's gross national product for that year. So those activities which contribute to the gross national product are called as economic activity. Economic activities are those which you can measure in terms of monetary value, okay, and all those who are engaged in economic activities in whatever capacity, like high or low, are the workers. Then, so even if some of them they are abstained from the work due to the injury or illness or any other physical disability or bad weather, festival functions, okay, even if they are remaining absent, then they are also called as workers. So workers also include all those who help the main workers in these activities. So we generally think of only those who are paid by an employer for their work as a workers. So this is not so. So those who are self-employed are also workers, okay. So the nature of employment in India is multifaceted. So some get employment throughout the year, some others get employed for a few months, like seasonal employment you can say, okay. Then many workers do not get fair wages for their work. So while estimating the number of workers, all those who are engaged in economic activities are included as employed. You might be interested in knowing the number of people actively engaged in various economic activities. So during the year 2017 to 18, India had about 471 million strong workforce. And since majority of the people they stay in rural areas, the proportion of workforce residing there is much higher, okay. Then the rural workers constitute about two-thirds of this 471 million. Then men from the majority of workforce in India, about 77% of the workers are men and the rest are women. Then men and women include the child laborers, okay. Then women workers, they account for one-fourth of the rural work, whereas in urban areas they are just one-fifth, okay. So women workers, they carry out the activities like cooking, then fetching water, fuel wood, then they participate in the farm, they go into the farm and they work over there, okay, and then they pay the daily wages. So they so sometimes what happens is women, they are not paid a fair wages at all, okay. They are not paid wages in cash or in the form of grains at time, and sometimes they are not paid at all, okay. So these are just considered as their part-time, just the activities. So economists agree that these women should also be called as workers because they do some work, okay, for others, okay. Then participation of people in employment. Worker population ratio is an indicator which is used for analyzing the employment situation in a country. So this ratio is very important. So it actively contributes to the production of goods and services of a country if the ratio is higher. So it means that the engagement of people is greater if the ratio for a country is medium or low. So it also means that a very high proportion of its population is not involved directly in economic activities. So population is nothing but it is defined as the total number of people who reside in a particular locality at a particular point of time. So here the worker population ratio is divided by the total number of workers in India by the population in India, and then we multiply it by 100. So here the table 6.1, it shows the worker population ratio in India, okay, wherein men and women have been taken. So is compared and rural and urban areas have been compared. So if you see the urban areas, men are like they work. There are more workers in the urban as compared to rural areas, okay. Women also, if you can see in urban areas, it is less as compared to the rural areas, because in rural areas women, they can go into the farm, okay, they can work over there into the fields. So these are some of the things which differs, okay, as compared to the rural and urban areas. So here table 6.1, it shows the different level of participation of people in economic activities. For every 100%, about 35 are workers in India. In urban areas, the proportion is about 34, whereas in rural area, the ratio is 35. So, rural areas, they have got a very limited resources to earn a higher income. Okay, they got a limited resource to earn a higher income. So, and they participate more in the employment. Many do not go to schools, colleges and other training institutions. So even if they go, then in middle they are going to discontinue, okay. But this doesn't happen in case of urban areas, okay. Whereas in urban areas, a considerable section is able to study in various educational institutions, and they got a various employment opportunity also. They look for the appropriate job to suit their qualifications and skills. So in rural areas, people cannot stay at home as the economic condition may not allow them to do so. Then, so if we see the table 6.1, compared to female, more are male workers, okay, who are found to be working, and the difference in participation rate is very large in urban areas. For every 100 urban females, only about 14 are engaged in some economic activities. So, but this is different in case of rural areas. For every 100 rural women, about 18 participate in employment market. So it is common to find that where men are able to earn high income, families discourage female members to take up for taking up the jobs. Then going back to this, many household activities done by the women are still not recognized, okay, as a productive work. So this narrow definition of work leads to non-recognition of women's work, and therefore to the underestimation of the number of women workers in the country. But they certainly contribute to the maintenance of household and all, okay. Then self-employed and hired workers. Um, does the worker population ratio say anything about worker status in society or about the working conditions? So, by knowing the status with which a worker is placed in an enterprise, it may be possible to know one dimension, quality of employment in a country. It also enables us to know the attachment of worker has with his or her job and the authority she or he has over the enterprise. Okay. So let's take an example: a cement shop owner, a construction worker, and a civil engineer of a construction company. Since the status of each one of them is different from another, they are also called differently. Then workers who own and operate an enterprise to earn higher livelihood are known as self-employed. Thus, the cement shop owner is self-employed over here. And about 52% workforce in India, it belongs to this category. The construction workers are known as casual wage laborers, and they account for about 25% of India's workforce. So these workers are casually engaged in other farms, and in return they get a remuneration. Okay. So, but the workers like the civil engineers who are working in the construction company, they account for about 23% of India's workforce. So when a worker is engaged by someone or an enterprise, okay, they are paid a salary, okay, regular salaried employees they are called as. So if we see the chart 6.1, distribution of employment is given over here, wherein self-employed, regular salaried employees, casual wage laborers, these everything is being categorized over here. So if we see 52% of self-employed people are the female workers over here. Okay, male workers ratio is also same, 52%. So so here we have noticed that self-employment is a major source of livelihood, okay, as compared to some other sources of income for both men and women. So at this category accounts for more than 50% of the workforce. It is 52 over here. Casual wage work is the second major source for both men and women. A little more so far the latter. When it comes to regular salaried employment, both women and men are found to be so engaged in greater proportion. Men from uh, Men form 23%, whereas women form 21% for the salaried employment. So the gap between men and women is very less. So when we compare the distribution of workforce, here distribution of employment by region, rural workers and urban workers, we can see that self-employed and casual wage laborers are found more in rural areas, okay, as compared to urban. Then both self-employment, if we see the chart, both self-employment and regular wage salaried jobs are greater, okay. Then since majority of those depending on farming own plots of land and cultivate independently, okay, so the share of self-employed is higher over here. Then the nature of work in urban areas is totally different as compared to the rural areas. So shops and offices of various type they own. So enterprises in urban areas also requires more workers on regular basis, okay. Then employment in firms, factories and offices. So in the course of economic development of a country, labor flows from agriculture and other related activities to industry and services. So in this process, workers migrate from rural to urban areas, okay, in search of job. So it is migration, right? So eventually at much later stage, the industrial sector begins to lose its share of total employment as the service sector enters a period of rapid expansion. Currently, service sector contributes more to the Indian economy, and this shift can be understood by looking at the distribution of workers by industry. So we divide the economic activities into 8 different industrial divisions. First is agriculture, then mining, quarrying, manufacturing, electricity, gas and water supply, then construction, trade, transport and storage, and services. Okay. Now, all the working person engaged in this division can be clubbed into the different sectors, that is primary, secondary, and the service sectors, okay. So like this it is divided. So primary sector is the main source of employment for majority of workers. Secondary sector provides employment to only about 24% of workforce, and the rest is the service sector. So if you see this table 6.2, here the distribution of workforce by industry is given as per the data reports of 2017-18. So if you see primary, secondary and tertiary sector in rural and urban areas, primary sector in rural areas is more as compared to urban area. Then the total, if you see, the primary sector is much higher, okay, of both. So here the table 6.2, it shows that about 60% of the workforce in rural India, they are depending on the agriculture, okay. Then agriculture, forestry and fishing. Then the rest of the rural workers are working in manufacturing industry, then construction and other industrial activities. Then service sector, it provides employment to only about 20% of rural workers. And in urban area, if you see, the ratio is so less because agriculture is not a major source of employment in urban areas, okay, because the people here they are mainly employed in the service sector, and about 60% of urban workers are in the service sector. And if you see the secondary sector, it gives employment to about 1/3 of urban workforce, okay. So though both men and women workers are concentrated in the primary sector, women workers concentration is very high here. About 57% of the female workforce is employed in the primary sector, whereas less than half of male works in that sector. Here in service sector, men get opportunities in both service as well as secondary sector, okay. So this is what with regards to the employment in firm, factories and offices, and we have seen the rural and urban employment. For the next class, we'll continue with the second part of this, that is growth and changing structure of employment. Okay. Thank you for watching my video.